Okay, let's now discuss Wisconsin PPO and give a little bit of an overview. So this is a small local not-for-profit health insurer founded in the 1970s. Up until 2011, they had a captive market of teachers and public sector government workers. That kind of went away under the new legislation, or under the legislation of Act 10 under Governor Scott Walker. They were and they still currently are one of the few PPO or preferred provider organizations within the state of Wisconsin compared to the ever-growing in popularity HMO plans. To give a little bit of context of history, 2012 to 2017 was a pretty tough time for the company. After the enactment of Act 10 in 2011, there was mass firings and layoffs as the market share that we had once controlled comfortably was heavily compromised with new entrants of competitors into the market. 2018 provided a opportunity for diversification of our product offerings, but from 2019 through today, we're still seeing some issues with profitability and that diversification not necessarily paying off as well as the company had initially thought. So the type of analysis that I wanted to use for this audit was a SWOT analysis, as well as taking that one step further and identifying internal and external factors, and then mapping that to a matrix. Okay, so moving into our analysis of the Wisconsin PPO, here we have the SWOT analysis, so the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, the top row, the strengths and opportunities, are two sections of the company has control over. We consider those internal factors that, where the weaknesses and threats are more external factors that the company really just has influence over. So to start in the strengths, Wisconsin PPO is local. It's one of the few PPOs in the state, which really allows for more customer choice. We have a historic presence and history in the state of Wisconsin. We've been here for over 50 years. And the company is really known for exceptional service. Some opportunities that I see is, we have opportunities for new product offerings as things are always changing, and we really have an opportunity to engage and deepen that engagement with our current membership. As far as the external factors or the weaknesses and threats are concerned, I see our weaknesses as really just limited negotiation power due to our size. The way that we do contracting with our providers and stuff, we just don't have the buying power that some of the bigger public plans do, so we get a little bit less advantageous rates. We're just technically unprofitable, so we spend more than we take in. I don't think the company is really aligned on how to effectively execute the company's vision. I think it's just between the different layers of management and rank and file, there's just not a cohesive plan on how to get there. Generally, I see this in a lot of different companies, but and Wisconsin PPO is no different. There's just a lot of wasteful practices, redundancies, so just a lot of extra costs. And then I think we just confuse members on how to interact with our product. Offering a PPO plan is nice because we offer choice, but it's almost too much choice. I don't know if you have Netflix, but the idea of not having commercials and getting to choose whatever you want to watch is a fantastic choice. But I don't know if you're like me, I am overcome with just too many options, and I find almost disengaged because I have too much choice. As far as the threats are concerned, I see just new regulations coming, which I personally, I think are great, but from a company's bottom line, could be kind of a threat. So some of these new regulations that I'm already hearing are, paying for behavioral health services. President Biden mentioned that within the State of the Union. And additionally, all insurance companies are having to cover, a certain amount of COVID tests each month, which is just a big extra cost for the companies. And then, as always, we just have competition with deeper pockets and quicker product delivery. So just the machines that they're running are bigger, the pockets are much deeper, and they can potentially get things to market a lot quicker than we are able to. All right, so after I did that SWOT analysis, I then moved everything into this kind of Excel sheet. So I put the strengths and the weaknesses, or those internal factors up top, and the opportunities and threats, which are down at the bottom. I put those external factors down at the bottom. As we can see from my weighting and rating, the internal factors came out to a 2.05, and the external factors came out to a 1.7. So what I really liked about this, that I didn't know, kind of previous to this course, was how to kind of use SWOT analysis and how to take it kind of one step farther. So what I did here is I took those two numbers that we had just talked about in the previous slide, the 2.05 and the 1.7, and put that on this grid. And as you're seeing red, which red is not usually good when we're talking about business, but it kind of intersects here, which means we are, kind of in a weird place, I think. So this kind of comes down to is Wisconsin PPO resilient? We talked before about having a crisis management plan, and my company does have one. But as we mentioned before, just having that plan doesn't mean you're set up for success. And it doesn't necessarily make things crisis proof. So one thing that I'm kind of seeing, and an opportunity I think to kind of improve on this, is really to focus on building up the employee. Human capital is really the next competitive advantages for companies. It's really expensive to keep taking on new employees in human capital and train them and get them to understand all the context that current employees have. And so really focusing on retention and building up and supporting those current employees, I think, is a great opportunity. So we mentioned as well that, the workers are really able to kind of understand and see a lot of potential risks and crises sort of happening. And we need to really enable and empower them to be able to become those problem detecting units, right? And to create opportunities and incentives to encourage them to think about continuous improvement and problem detection. Initially too, when we focus on human capital, we do need to focus on making sure that we have good people coming in the door, right? Managing employees that are really struggling or not a good fit for the company after the fact is just expensive, and it takes away from what the company is trying to do. So if we can really manage that, kind of before the problem even comes, I think that is really advantageous for companies. And then author Seth Godin, I think, said it really well when he talked about, enabling the next generation to learn and grow as fast as possible. And he said, as leaders, our job is obvious. We need to get out of the way, shine a light, and empower a new generation to teach itself to go further and faster than any generation ever has. So I think organizations really need to take it to heart that one way for them to be more competitive in an ever-changing landscape is to just empower your workers, right? Encourage them, let them grow, let them build their skill sets out, and support them kind of all along the way, right? Provide that communication and that context to your mission and your vision. So as we can see from this matrix, I think, Wisconsin PPO really has some work to do. They're really in this harvest and divest area. And so, finding other ways to really kind of bump up these numbers and make us, strong internally, as well as improving the influence that we can have over external factors, or will really move the company and allow it to move it up into this yellow and green areas. So along with just, empowering your employees generally, I think it's really imperative to understand that your company is not as rigid as it used to be, right? And things just seem to move faster. So another thing that I think would really kind of improve this, along with building up your workforce, is really to change how your company, which is a big system really, and how that works. So Gary Myers, who's a researcher and professor in leadership, noted that maybe it's time to stop planning our way out of problems and considering an alternate way of managing them. And I think that's really key to not just solving problems, but really how we manage people and how we allow people to solve problems. the goal is for a strategy. Our strategies are ever morphing and ever changing as new stimuli and opportunities come into view. And so we really need to find ways to get out of the way and let the people who really are in the day-to-day kind of rally around these quickly and produce value, as quickly as possible. There was a study that was done out of McKinsey, and it was around, this whole idea of agility and business agility. And is it just kind of a buzzword, or is there actually some like legitimacy to this, right? And do we see companies really becoming able to, finding companies that are able to better respond to certain things? What I loved about McKinsey is that they actually put together some really good like ROI, like financial ROI, if you were to move your company into a more kind of an agility focused way to solve problems. Customer needs are rapidly changing. So this idea of a waterfall methodology to produce items, which takes 18 months to 2 years, the needs are just not going to be there anymore, right? The needs are going to change and shift. And so McKinsey found that when enterprises adopted a more agile mindset for product development, that they saw a 10 to 30% increase in customer satisfaction. Right, the customer's needs were being met better. Under the same understanding that the organization has taken a more agile approach, McKinsey also found a 20 to 30-point increase in employee engagement, a 30 to 50% performance improvement of those employees, and a 20 to 30% improvement in financial performance. So there is a huge kind of drive and draw and push to this, this kind of mindset of being agile, right? And how that, and really focusing on your employees, are things that we have control over internally as a company, and that would really help us move into a grow and build, kind of atmosphere without really needing to focus as much or relying as much on external factors and influencing those. It's still important, right? But we have more ability to help and solve the kind of internal factors here, which is what I suggest. Okay, so I just want to say thank you. Today we've talked about a lot of different things. We kind of understood why I wanted to do this resiliency audit of Wisconsin PPO. We understand the need for planning for crisis, but the need to really understand stakeholders' impacts and their value proposition with your company, and how we really just need to understand that more than building out these super solidified plans. We then talked about Wisconsin PPO and some of the challenges that they are experiencing in the market, and that they, at its current, run and operate model, are really kind of struggling, and the future for them seems a little dire unless they can change. I've outlined a couple of opportunities that I think to move this right along, and it's really honing in on the workforce and empowering them and growing that skill set, as well as changing the model in which the company works, which is introducing agility into the company to be able to respond better to market pressures and customer needs as soon as possible. So hope is not lost, but the company cannot, I don't think, can survive doing what it's currently doing. So I really appreciate your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And thank you so much.